Alrighty, everybody, it's time for the finale of our set review. I am joined, as always, by Travis Rudros. How you doing, bud?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on here. Happy to close out with some fun light, dark, and limit break cards.
Should be a lot of fun. These are always really interesting ones because
Yeah,
very big range on how good these can end up being.
yeah.
So up first we have Fusoya. So real quick on Twitter, there's a Japanese player that pulled this in full art. It is
Oh, yeah.
gorgeous. Like I don't know, it doesn't come across very well on this thing, but like the way the foiling like kind of accents like his hand and his like his eyebrows and stuff. Like it
Mhm.
almost looks textured. Like it's really stunning.
Nice.
But so 2 CP light backup, Job Lunarian. When Fusoya enters the field, choose a forward. Deal it 9,000 damage and remove the top two cards of your deck from the game. Flare, choose a forward, deal it 9,000 damage, remove the top two cards of your deck from the game. So, kind of a bit of a retrain on its like Opus 2 card where it's like, pop something for way above curve with a very minor downside.
Yeah.
Definitely a really interesting card. It's kind of funny. I listened to a different set review and they were like, "This card is terrible. Why would anybody play this?" I am like not on that boat at all. I think this card's actually like pretty solid for what it is. Like 2 CP for 9k damage. There is not a backup in the game that will kill a 5 CP forward like this on entry
Yeah.
for this cost. Like there just isn't. And I actually really like the design space of giving him the special because it means you could play 3 Fusoya, and the next one is just okay, cool. This one is a flare. The
Hmm.
next one is a flare. That's like really smart design because then you don't have the awkwardness that you have with light backups, which is when a backup hits the field, it should be staying on the field the whole game.
Right.
You don't have to like a discard outlet or something to like make use of a dead card in hand. Now that said, you're still kind of locked into like an almost mono type of deck, or a deck that like is willing to play with a colorless backup, which probably rolls out like Refia, probably rolls out mono water. You need the deck to feel comfortable giving up on maybe even some of like the free play backups that are so good. Those are a lot harder to make work with, like a Fusoya potentially. But if you are willing to do that, I think the card is pretty decent. Again, like there's just nothing in this thing that kills anything. How much play is it going to see? I don't know. It is going to be a bit awkward again. You have to be willing to do that, and but we'll see. Do you have any thoughts on this guy?
No, he's actually, if he doesn't see play, he's probably too fair to say it in this day and age that, he's a light backup. I don't even think he needed to remove the cards. I think you could just, okay, on entry, blast, and he's got a special that blast. So he's fun, great art, obviously, but yeah, these days it feels like your light or dark slots have to do crazy strong stuff. So I don't think he'll see play just because of how fair he is, but I really do like this card.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he didn't need it. I'm assuming that that's partly meant to be kind of a lore thing. I never finished four. I got to the moon and like met Fusoya, but like I know that
Yeah.
I know some things that happened to him in the later part of the game. I'm guessing it's kind of related to stuff with that, but it seems I don't know. I guess it's a lot stronger than it reads on first glance. I think people might not realize that. Again, it's just what deck really is willing to play a light dark for this as opposed to something else.
Yeah. Yep.
And maybe that something else is our next card. So this is Yuna, 2 CP, Jog Goldwings, 5,000 power. Dull 2 active forwards, select one of the following three actions. Either choose 2 forwards and dull them, choose a character and freeze it, or choose a summoner auto ability. If your opponent doesn't pay one, cancel its effect. Why don't you start with Yuna? What do you think, Travis?
You know what this card makes me think of? A Opus 19 Ice Legend that Daniel insisted was just one of the most broken cards in the game, which was called Sarah Mobius. Just because it has a lot of similar effects. It has a cancel tax ability, which that one had. It can freeze stuff. That one couldn't freeze, but that one had a power bump. It could dull, just like this one does. Now, the main difference is Yuna doesn't have to wait a whole turn, but her cost is also a little higher. Like, Sarah was kind of self-sufficient. Yuna needs another forward, but she's very cheap. She's only 2, so surely you can put out a unit and one other thing. After that, my issues with her, she's a 5k, so it's going to be pretty easy to get rid of her. And she doesn't have the power bump like the Sarah did to potentially save herself. So like, I don't know. She is a Gullwing, so she can fit in with other Gullwings, but obviously can't be brought in by the other Yuna because she's the same name. So it's just like with any of these cards, right? if everything goes your way, if this card sticks around, it's going to be a powerhouse, right? Because you're continually just getting all this value out of her. Is she going to stick around as a 5K and you're giving up two blockers attackers every time? That I'm less convinced about. So as much as I love this artwork, I don't know. I'm not high on this.
So this is the best card in the set.
Okay.
It might not even be close. I cannot. First of all, I do think Sarah Mobius is still just underplayed relative to how good she was. But regardless of that, we can take Sarah Mobius out of the equation entirely because it's not relevant for Yuna. People don't know this. Vikings are like considered tier 3 in Japan. Can you imagine giving Vikings the text on this card? Like, Vikings are so good at getting a bunch of weenies that don't have text onto the field. And then now Yuna says, oh, the text on these guys is, my opponent can't play the card game anymore. I've been messing with her with an Archfiend's deck, actually. I was playing the Warp Golbez. She's the best card in the deck, and she's so good I almost wonder if the deck is actually competitively viable because of her. Like, there's some awkwardness with her. You do have to, like, if you get her down too late, you have all these forwards out that are all really vulnerable and they all just die to anything. And if you get her down too early, you can't do that second effect enough to really make your opponent unable to play the card game. But, like, if you can get those forwards down, like, and you get wide enough, like, your opponent literally will never clear your field because they just can't pay through the tax. And then there's, like, even sneaky stuff you can do, like, if you can activate all your forwards again, like with a Miwa or something, and now all of a sudden they think, okay, fine, I'll do this, I'm going to Shantoto, I'll have to discard a card to Yuna to pay for it, whatever. If you can get your opponent to tap out or, like, freeze their backups with Yuna, and then, like, they have to start doing that, and then you can, like, surprise and say, actually, you're not paying 1 tax, you're paying 8. Like, the game is so over at that point. Because, like, the way that second ability works, this isn't Magic. You can't float mana. You can't discard a card and say, I'm going to pay 2 taxes with that discard. No, if you have to do your effect and you don't have a backup to dole, that's a discard. And the next time, that's a discard. And, like, sometimes your opponent just doesn't have the cards in hand to resolve through that. No, this card is completely broken. I am, like, convinced, like, maybe one of the best cards in the set. Maybe one of the best cards in the history of the game.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely going to need to see some proof of that before I'm convinced.
This card genuinely horrifies me. I think the only weakness that I have is she cannot tax Refia spinning her to the deck, or, like, Porum. But, you have to be running those cards in your deck now. Like, I almost wonder if, like, you have to run Porum in, like, water just to stop her from doing her thing. And even when you do that, she's going to freeze all your backups in response for you doing that to begin with, so you got to kill her that turn with it. Like, she's
damn,
horrifying.
How many forwards do you have that you can do that much?
My record in goldfishing was 9 on turn 3.
You had 9 forwards on turn 3?
I was playing a Vikings deck that I was goldfishing. It was turn 1, 2 backups. Turn 2, Warrior of Light, the one that, like, activates 2 backups when you play a standard unit.
Yeah.
And then I went Viking, Yuna.
Interesting.
I'm
sure that will happen in all of our normal FFTCG games.
I mean, you don't have to roll that well to even do, like, but, like, it's...
Well, I guess we'll see. Now we should talk about my favorite card in the set.
All right.
I'll introduce it. This is Vegnagun, card that he's definitely deserved a card way before this. This is my favorite card in the set. I'm not saying it's even the best or necessarily even good, but I love this design. This card to me feels like it was actually designed. So it's very lore thematic because Vegnagun is a threat to destroy all of Spira. So his final action ability says, yeah, I'm going to blow up your entire board. And they thought about the weakness of dark cards that you have these dark cards that have, for lack of a better word, specials, but then you have to pile all these dark cards into your deck. Well, here, it actually rewards you for playing the other copies of Vegnagun. So when you lose the first one, you go get the next one, play it dull, and then if you have another one, you can immediately throw it out to just get him ready and block as a 10k and draw you a card so it refunds you. Like, I love this guy. I don't think he's going to see any play, but I just think he's a fun card, and I think he was actually designed. Like I can see there's at least a design philosophy around this. So it's a shame there aren't more copies of a Vegnagun because honestly, his effects are good enough. You probably would want to load up on a bunch, but since he's the first version, there's only 3 you can use. So to use that final effect, you have to specifically have the other 2 and have him on the field. So again, he's got way too many weaknesses to see any competitive play, but damn, do I love this card.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because like I really wish they had just printed like a vanilla 6 cost 1,000 power card name Vegnagun, like just no other
Yeah.
text on it. So I think that would have been really interesting to like make that. Because the problem with this, the second action ability is you have to have seen both copies of Vegnagun to do it. Now the effect is really good. I do wish it broke like if I'm gonna go through those hoops, let me break monsters too. Like
Yeah, agreed.
um, and then like I almost kind of wish like it cost like 6 and drew on entry.
Yeah, I can see
Um,
that.
because then I could see an excuse to have this be the new thing you play with Arc. Because
Yeah,
you can cycle extra copies of Vegnagun or other Dark Forwards to it, and then like you could cast an Arc potentially, but like the Arc isn't dead in hand because of it. Like, I think that would have been like a really cool thing. But the fact he only costs 4 means he's really not discounting Arc enough to really. He's like fine, but like he's not like gonna change the game there with it.
yeah.
I think he's cool. I wish this guy had come out in like Opus 15, where I think he would have
I
been a lot
know.
more. Again, one of those cards that like, and it's not that the card reads poorly now. I think like it's deserving of the legend status just because of how interesting and unique the card is. But I do really wish we'd gotten this card sooner instead of a card like Neo Extet that just never had good or fun gameplay
Yeah,
patterns. I love the lore implications for how this card working. He's literally charging the laser that's going to destroy the world, and like
yeah.
when he gets the 2 other Vegnaguns and the breaks them, that's him doing it. Also, did they really need that discard to be active or to be once per turn? Like we couldn't just.
Yeah. If you're
Uh,
playing that many dark cards, let me get the payoff for that.
I get that they're like maybe they don't want it to be a deep draw engine, but if you're deep drawing because you have a bunch of dark cards in your deck, I really don't think there's a payoff for deep draw that's going to care about it.
Exactly.
But I probably that might be me. I talk about how sometimes they don't have enough safety valves on cards. Like Chaos clearly did not have the right level of safety valves on it.
Yeah.
That's maybe them being cautious with this one. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there. So we're into the element breaks. So first up, we have Machina, Classier Cadet. You can only cast him if you don't control any forwards. I wonder if Machina doesn't like people or just is a loner or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we haven't seen that on his text before. Like, I get it. I get he didn't get along with the others in the game very well, but damn, you don't have to put that on every card.
For each point of damage you received, he gains 1,000 power. Basically, he's like an LB Roche.
Yeah, kind of.
You just turn any fire card in your hand into Roche. It doesn't have haste like Roche did. But like, I still think that that's probably good enough in some matchups, right?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like, I mean, I don't know if you're going to play him outside cadets. Obviously, he can fulfill their numbers. He can get some of them higher, but I don't know. Do I want to spend one of my limit break cards in 2CP just to get a 4K on turn 1? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Outside of cadets, I don't know. Why can't Machina just get like oh, wow, what a great card. Call me bitter.
well, I kind of like other stuff you could do with him too. Like if you have Clive, if you want to attack with Clive, you're going to discard your hand anyway. And there's a lot of situations where when you're playing
Yeah.
Clive, you just accidentally are stuck with a card in hand, no matter how like well you play your hand out or how if you like play it at max efficiency, you have a card in hand. Well, maybe you have an
Yeah.
empty board and you just pitch it, put a Machina in because might as well you discard the card anyway. Now you've got a Clive and a Machina, so you're kind of developing even more of a threat. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's another interesting spot. I also love him in cadets potentially, like because of his implications with 9 are so cool. Where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
ditch the lightning card, play Machina, play Ace, draw a card, dull them both, play 9, and then shenanigans abound there. So just a
Yeah.
really solid card, honestly.
That's probably one of his best uses is the enabling the Opus 13.9.
Up next, we have Red 13, Job Warrior. Less relevant from the LB deck than it is from the main deck, obviously. 4 CP, 7K. If you control 3 or more Cat 7 forwards, he gains Haste, First Strike, and Brave. When he enters the field, all the forwards you control gain 2,000 power until the end of the turn. He's fine. They people seemed, everybody that said like, oh my god, I can't believe they printed haste from LB. Like they're horrified at the idea that you can get haste from LB, and it's like, to me, is haste from LB that different than what Surge's is? Like being totally honest, like Surge's is kind of haste because he doles the biggest thing out of the way anyway. It's like that doesn't really like matter to me. The I think this card is fine. I like the power bomb. Haste First Strike and Brave as a 9K is cool. You know, I like the payoff for playing Cat 7. Again, I think that with like there's enough reason to be playing Earthfire Cat 7 anyway that you'll play this guy. I don't think Limit Break 2 is necessary for this at all. It's very easily should have been LB1, I think. But I don't know. He kind of does what he does, I think, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, he's kind of another just generic red 13. Like, I would understand the fear if the haste was just a card that unequivocally has haste, but he has to have 2 other 7 forwards specifically. So you're not always going to have that. And, like, that's kind of all he does is he just runs it and hits you. So I think he's fine.
It's kind of cool with Zach. Like, one of the things with Zach is only an 8K. And Zach needs 3 forwards, but he doesn't have to be the 3rd forward to enter. So you go, like, Cat 7 forward, Zach, Red 13. Now Red sees all of them, so he gains haste, and Zach is going to gain 2,000 power, so now Zach can safely attack, and then Red can attack. It's kind of neat synergy there, but then you're playing, like, you're either cheating in Zach in Earth Fire, or you're playing Fire Lightning, and Fire Lightning is, I think, one of the weakest element combos. Maybe it needs a push like that to be playing Fire Lightning, but, like, that's not going to make me want to play Fire Lightning over, like, other things they could be doing there, so.
Yeah.
It is the pre-release promo as well. Kam'lanaut, 60p Ice, Descendant of the Zillart. When he enters the field, choose a forward. If you control a dark forward, break it. I think it's just cool. I like the design space of the card. I like Kam'lanaut interfacing with dark cards like he did before. That's kind of a fun little throwback to the... Was it Opus 5 was the one that like was like Search a Dark character?
That was the big one.
Like, that's kind of neat. He's maybe a little bit expensive, but again, like, you know, from LB, a 4CP, this is a 4CP pseudo forward to break anything, and I'm horrified of Une. I want to kill Une by any means necessary. This is a way of killing Une that, like, a Victora couldn't. So, is he a world beater? Absolutely not. Does he see play in a deck playing a dark forward, like a Kadaj or a Vegnagun? Yeah, he's going to be in the deck. Like, he's not going to be a world beater. I'm not claiming this card is amazing or broken, but I do like it.
Far too expensive for the effect that it requires for the restriction on it of a dark forward. Thematic, but I don't like it. But I think both the Ice LBs are, not to tip my hand for the next one, are doo-doo butter, so.
We might have some arguments on this a little bit then, but so this is
Shuyin. He's a 5K. Like, I get it. He's thematic. He searches for Vegnagun. That's what he does in the game. But he's a 5K, costs 5, basically costs 7, because then you have to discard on top of him just to search. Like, geez, if I'm gonna pay 7, let me play it to the field, and then you can even restrict it. He can only search Vegnagun, but like, 7? You want me to pay 7 for this? Why? Why can't he at least be an 8K? He'd still die to Amaterasu. Like, I know. People who want to use their chaos are gonna just go search out the chaos stuff and break it, but I still hate it.
Let me give the full wrap down. So Shuyin is Job Illusion.
Sorry.
Cat said, when Shuyin enters the field, you can discard a card. When you do, search for a dark forward, add it to your hand, and he is 5,000 power, as Travis has noted. Again, you have to math LB cards differently than you math main deck cards. This is a card that is always available. This card says you can always get whatever the dark forward is that you really want. That is inherently really strong. If there was a 3CP dark forward that said search for a dark forward, it would be really good. Granted, this also says discard a card, which is funny because it also could have just said 7. You literally cannot get to this point without discarding anyway. I just think it's funny that it says that. I guess you could proc your Black Waltz by discarding it, but neither here nor there. But, like, I mean, first off, they really just did not think Chaos was going to be a problem for some reason. Like, I've never seen a clearer indication that they just did not think that Chaos special spam was going to be a deck that was going to be problematic for the game, because, again, Raijin and Fujin was the set before Chaos, and then 2 sets after Chaos, you're going to print this. Like, there's no way they thought that through. Also, thank goodness we didn't have this back when Neo X Death was good, because this would have been a card that searches Neo X Death on turn 1 every single time. You can then play it, and then also you can't get Famfrated anymore because you can just sack the Shuyin.
Yeah.
I like that it's LB1. I really thought that this would be LB2 when I was reading it. Like that was like that like startled me. I was like, wait, did they put a searcher on LB1? Really? Like I could not believe they did that. He's specific. You're gonna really need a Dark Form, but like again, think how much Chaos would have loved this card last set.
Oh, sure. I mean, but could it have afforded it? Like, if you're spending
Yes.
7 on this guy, are you gonna have enough left to do like your chaos tricks?
Yep, you could have. You could go Shuyin, Chaos. You could always have done that.
Mm.
You just going second. You go okay, cool. I have a Chaos in hand. Pitch, Shuyin, pitch, search Chaos, pitch, Chaos special would have always worked. I don't know. I just think there's so much potential for this guy, and we don't have all the information now. But like even something like the Sephiroth Legend from Opus 11, where like you don't want him early, but like when you want him late game and he'd be really strong, you could go get him. I think Shuyin's a really cool buff to a card like that. And granted, maybe he could have been cheaper, but again, I don't want him cheaper because I don't want him to happen with Chaos. And again, dark cards tend to enable shit that I don't want in the game a lot of the time.
Yeah, very true.
So if they're going to be overly cautious, like again, for the rest of Final Fantasy TCG, anytime they print a Dark Forward, they have to think you can always search it on turn 1 for relatively cheap, or on turn 2 relatively cheap. They have to always keep that in mind. I'd rather they go a little bit conservative because I think this card is still good enough to see play in some decks regardless. I think Chaos Arc still plays this guy, by the way.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Again, if there is something you want to guarantee search out, then yes, he clearly fulfills that.
So yeah, clearly he's not that bad then. Is what I'm saying. So he will see play this set. There will be topping deck lists. I will be sending them your way every time there's a topping deck list with a Shuyin in it. You can count on it.
By all means.
Up next we have Aerith. Aerith is our rare LB for Wind. 5 CP, 4K, LB2. Search for a Cloud or Zac. Add it to your hand. Does not specify forward, so this can get backups. There are 2 different Cloud backups and a Zac backup. That's Fire Wind. Maybe not the most exciting of backup combinations, but still cool nonetheless. And then you can tap her, sack her, choose an auto ability, choosing Cat 7 forward you control, cancel its effect. Just generally a pretty good card. I don't think that like there's like going down the list of Zacs, like a lot of them don't mind that. Having the extra character on for the new Lightning one is cool. Searching Cloud, the new one has a lot of utility, but also you have stuff like the old Pod Cloud you could potentially go search out with this, or I don't imagine you're playing like the Avalanche Merc Cloud or anything like that, but like, Wind Lightning Cloud is a really strong card as well that you could play, and that she's in color for that even. And she gets a cast down for that Wind Lightning Cloud. Really strong.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what your specific target is, if it's a Cloud Pod thing, or I'm not 100% sure who she's going after, but obviously if you want to get those targets, then you're going to get them. It's really interesting. They really want to stick to the theme of Aerith having like a weak body, because so few of her cards are actually like at power level. So many of them have these 4,000, 5,000 power levels.
Yeah. Up next, a really interesting one in the Emperor. So LB2, 3 CP, 5K. When one or more cards are added to your opponent's hand from the break zone, draw a card. Or when your opponent searches, draw a card. So this is one of the weirdest cards. I think it's one that I'm going to have to play with a lot to really see how good it is. Because I can see a situation where you play this and then it gets Brynhildred and you cry.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am thinking, like, let's go down the list of backups in Refia. Sarah FFL, draw a card.
Yep.
Kryl, draw a card. Tyro, draw a card. King Tycoon, draw a card. Ferris, or Forward, draw a card. Bosch, draw a card. Like, if you like went like back up into this against Refia, like they have to kill it, or you're gonna draw like 4 cards off of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, if it only draws once, it's a delayed Leo, which is probably not really where you want to be. But like, there's so much more potential for this guy to go up. Now, granted, you don't ever want to play this guy against like a mono ice aggro deck. You're just gonna like die for doing that. But like,
Yeah.
assuming you know what your opponent's up to a bit, I think that like Reffia's decks could adopt him as a copy to like hedge for the mirror, and Reffia already like wants to be in the LB2 zone because Lunafreya I think is the big thing for Reffia. Like they don't need the LB4 from like a Tidus, right? It's a little awkward in like mono win because it's LB2 and they're really big on ace. But even in that situation, if you're in a mono win mirror, you slap one of these down, Chocobo Sam, you draw. Fat Chocobo, you draw. Azura, to get back the thing, you draw. Like there's so many situations where you just will be drawing so many cards by playing this guy that I think he might even just break the mono win mirror as well if you can kind of stick him early. I think, but I also think again, I don't think it's a mono win card necessarily. I think just like any win deck can consider just playing this guy now, or even like a lightning deck if you're going to play the lightning Golbez as like an EX burst potentially. Maybe you could play him off of that in some decks too. I just think this card is really really powerful in the right situations.
Yeah, he's a fun idea, and given how bad most of the wind LBs have been, like it's nice to see one that this one isn't just absolutely putrid. Man, you know what I would love? I would love a card like this that had back attack, so that they're go like, okay, search, haha, cheat him into play, do your search, now I'll draw. Because right now he legit, you just have to stick him out there and hope like, all right, well I hope you do a bunch of drawing and searching while he's sitting there waiting. So I think the timing of that is going to make him so awkward that he ultimately won't see much play, but I really do like the concept of him.
I don't want to see back attack on an LB card, but
no, I know I don't even know if that because I think you have to do it on your turn.
No, there's no rules about that. They in theory could bring back attack on an LB card.
Well, nonetheless, if they made this a non-LB card that you could back attack in, I think that'd be a fun idea in the future.
Yeah, no, I think the card is really interesting. Emperor seems to just kind of get fun, interesting cards sometimes like that with like weird tax effects. They kind of experiment with them a little bit. I know he's Kageyama's favorite character, so we get kind of weird things like this occasionally. Also, Emperor and Wind that was a decision as well.
Yeah,
I think that's a first. Earth, our hero is Sarah Mobius. So LB2, 4CP, 5K. When she enters the field, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Add a Mobius card among them. Tapper, the next category Mobius forward is reduced by 2. I don't know what a Mobius deck looks like, and if this is enough of a reason for me to want to play like a really heavily Mobius deck. I will say there's a lot of stuff that just is incidentally Mobius again that you kind of don't realize it until you put the filter in. Arciella, Shadow Lord, all of the Warring Triad from 6 are all Mobius. Like, there's just so many random Mobius cards that it's like, maybe there is something you could do with this, and it mills the rest of the cards, so I guess it's probably intending to set up for Maya, but also you could run like the Fujin and Raijin potentially, because those cards need more help. Again, thank goodness they didn't print this with Chaos in the format as a problem, because Jesus Christ. So, I don't know. I think she's really interesting. Mobius is a game I wish I could still play. I know it's like offline and defunct, but like, because the art for this game is incredible, like across the board. Like, I really wonder, like, what was the use for this art in the game?
Well, I can tell you because I thought the art for all these cards was so good, I played Mobius for a while. Unfortunately, most of it was just like cards you could collect as part of the gacha mechanic. They weren't actually like characters featured within the game, which was disappointing. At least not like the summons. You pretty much said it all. Like, I don't know what a Mobius deck looks like, but if you're playing it, surely you're playing this.
Yep. Yang LB1, Brave, 5CP, 8K. When he enters the field, you can play a forward of cost less than or equal to the number of monk you control. Kind of similar to his old Opus, what was it, 11 card? 12 card? 11.
What was it? Was it 13 maybe? I think it was 13.
It was 13.
Had the damage 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing, kind of, put something into play. I'll let you start on Yang a little bit, because I've got some kind of fun things with this card.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's similar to our last card. Like, if you're playing monks, you really have no reason to not just be keeping this in your limit break deck. And then if you've got a bunch of monks on the field, he essentially says, play something from your hand for free. What are you playing for free? Probably the Ursula, maybe some form of map that you really like. I don't recall monks really being the thing for quite a while because I just feel like they haven't really gotten some substantial upgrades. So I think you'll use them in that deck, and beyond that, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna see monks anytime soon, are we?
He does not play monks. He plays forwards.
Oh, it's just any forward. Oh, okay. I misread that. So, but it's based on the number of monks you have. So you're still going to have to be playing. But yeah, you could cheat in something like Warrior of Light, the 4-color one, or Ingus, or whatever your preferred big bonker is. Okay, that makes him a little better. I thought he specifically played a monk,
Yeah.
but he does still want to see monks to increase the cost, obviously.
Uh, I think this guy's really interesting and really cool for a reason that I kind of I'm gonna get to laugh at you a bit for. Do you remember
Okay.
Opus 17?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Ice Legend of Opus 17?
Off the top of my head, no. I can pull it up.
There's a one
Nice.
cost Ice Legend from Opus 17 named Zazat.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but Yang himself is a monk. You always have one monk in play when you play Yang from the LB deck.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're in your mono Earth deck and you decide just for funsies, or even your deck splashing Earth, and you have this little one cost ice guy in your hand, you get to just throw him on the field from your LB deck
True.
for. And I'm not gonna lie, I think like the ability for Zazat to be, instead of 1 CP but increased by the number of cards in your opponent's hand, he's a I guess what would this be? He'd be a 5 CP forward that like is an Earth Ice multicolored forward that also just happens to create a Brave 8K to sit next to him somehow that doesn't exist back in the day. I think Zazat might have seen a lot of play.
Yeah,
Um,
possibly. Yeah.
so people are, oh no, you cheated Zidane off of this. You cheated. No, no, no. Why are we playing Zidane? Why are we trying to get to 2 monks? You just need 1. Like, and because he's an LB, you don't ever have to draw this. You don't have to line up like Yang plus Zazat, or it's just
Yeah.
you just have to draw Zazat at a time where you can make Earth CP,
Yeah. That part's really nice.
and you get to cheat into play 2 8Ks, one of which rips the card from your opponent's hand and gives you hand knowledge. I think Yang is very good. um, Up next, we have Kain, who is a Dragoon support. So 9 CP, Cat 4, LB1 first strike. If you control 3 or more Dragoons or card named Dragoons, the cost required to cast Kain is reduced by 5. When he enters the field, choose a forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. I'll let you start on Kain. How do you feel?
Ka- Kain has 14 cards, not counting the Hooded Man variants. And in 14 cards, he has never, ever had one that you're like, this is it. This is the Kain that makes Dragoons. And now this one's in the limit break, which is nice, so it doesn't conflict with the other Canes you could still put in the deck, unless you're like running the backup, and then it's going to conflict. Yeah, he's fine. So, assuming you're playing Dragoons, because why wouldn't you be? He's going to be a 4-cost 8K that gets you back something when you play him, which is good. Just very serviceable, and then he's got first strike and potentially could get haste. And he's only limit break 1, which is nice, so you could very easily get all 3 copies of this out. So yeah, he's generically good. He did Eyes to Amaterasu and Mist Dragon, but I also feel like that's a little less painful when it's coming from the limit break deck. So yeah, he's very solid in Dragoons.
And when he cost 4 as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I will straight up say, Kain does not fix the problems that are plaguing Dragoons. He helps Dragoons.
Yeah.
He makes them better. I think that like it's kind of cool that like he can get you back Freya specials, and you get all your draw stuff of Alice. But again, that deck is going to have the issues that it has, as long as it's reliant on Alice to be its thing. However, this is where I get to put my little tinfoil crackpot ghoul theory into play.
All right, let's hear it.
So, if you're playing lightning backups, there's nothing stopping you from just playing Dragoons.
Mm-hmm.
The Opus 12 one, it's fine. If you ever have a second Dragoon in the break zone, you can crack it, and you can get 2 CP for it for a turn even, right? And its cat's 14, which is relevant because you could play it with Scions and that'll buff your Grahati now, right?
Hmm.
There's the common from 22, which is, it gives a forward first strike and 3,000 power on entry. It's okay. The second effect on it's actually like pretty good, I think. It's like lightning 1, discard a lightning card to break it forward to cost 4 or less. Like it's actually a pretty decent little like action ability.
Yeah.
Ricard is one of the best backups in lightning by quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that gives you, if you run 3 of each of those and 2 or 3 Ricards, that's 9 dragoons. And I don't think that lightning really is that pressed for limit break space. Like it's got you run what, like a Luso. You probably are running 2 clouds. You're maybe running a lightning. I don't think you're that hung up on Gilgamesh. Like Gilgamesh is not, a card I'm excited to play. I'm not excited for Nyx. I think that Edge is it's the worst LB legend by a mile. So why not consider playing a Scion deck and running just Dragoon backups, and maybe in the mid-late game you get this payoff of this 2 CP forward to refund any forward in your break zone back to your hand. Like,
Hmm.
and it's LB1, so it's cheaper than Noctis on your LB deck. You could go Luso and then 3 Kains in a game. Sounds really, really strong. Or you could do Cloud plus Kain. Seems really good. It sounds crazy when I say it out loud like that. It sounds crazy, and I even acknowledge that. But it's like we thought the same about Refia, even didn't we? Where it's like, well, she has backups, but they suck.
Yeah.
Kain is not Refia, but I think this is maybe an underexplored thing in the game that people should consider. Is if you're playing backups, maybe you could play worse backups that make your other cards better. And I think that's a situation where that could potentially actually happen. Food for thought. I don't think he's interesting for Dragoons because I don't think Dragoons are a deck worth considering. But I do think
Yeah.
Mono Lightning can consider him in that way.
Yeah.
All right, up next we have Sephiroth, who is our apology for Edge. So he's a war hero, 8 cost, 8,000 power, LB4. It's our first ever LB4, which means that you can play Sephiroth, but then you couldn't Edge. You'd have to like Cloud for your second LB, right?
Yeah.
When Sephiroth enters the field or attacks, dole all the forwards other than Sephiroth. At the end of each of your turns, choose a dole forward other than Sephiroth and break it. I think this guy is interesting. I say it every time. If I have an LB card that can kill Une, I am almost okay paying anything to get that card off of the field. And conveniently, Une is going to give me 2 cards to discard to pay the Sephiroth.
Right.
I mean, it's a really weird thing because he also, unlike just like a straight break like Cloud, there is a very, very big incentive to get Sephiroth off the field once you play him, which is really cool. Like, if your opponent doesn't kill Sephiroth, any forwards they play are going to die. It is kind of annoying he's mandatory, so if you kill all your opponent's forwards, then Sephiroth's going to start, some friendly fire. I guess that, as is the Sephiroth way, can't be a war hero without a Nibelheim here or there, but...
That's true. True.
I think it's really interesting. I've actually played him once. He did fine in that game. Is he amazing? But you only need 1 copy of him too. You're not taking up a ton of LB space.
Yeah.
And when you really need to get something off the field, he will do it for you. So we'll see. I'm not expecting him to be the best card in the game, but I do think he's going to see play and experimentation. And again, I think that Lightning LBs that are not named Cloud or Lightning are pretty bad. So I would absolutely play this in my Mono Lightning deck before I played a lot of other options.
You said it with your first line when you said he's interesting. He is. He's really cool. He kind of gives me this idea of like a one-man army, which Sephiroth is, that he could essentially be on the board by himself. He just knocks out, doesn't matter how many forwards you have, boom, knocks them all out, and then starts carving them up at the end of the turn. So I love the idea of him, but man, he is too expensive. 8, you want me to pay 8 for this? And he dies to Amat, at least give him 9k. Please don't let them Amat something that costs 8. And then like you said, I would assume if you're truly trying to play this card, you're building around it, but he can start doing some friendly fire if you're not careful. I am so grateful they added the line that he can't like axe himself. It'd be so dumb if he was like, well, got everybody else. Just cut his own throat. So really cool idea. I really love the idea of the card, man. I just wish it was a little cheaper.
Again, though, like, you do the little mental math, you remove the 2 from it. A 6 CP forward that does this would be interesting. I don't think it'd be playable at 6. But again, we're not playing it at 6, we're playing it at 8 with an LB. So only in situations where this card is good, you could just manifest a 6 CP kill spell that your opponent has to deal with. Yeah, I do wish they gave him, like, First Strike or something would have been nice, or, like, you know...
Yeah,
like
or even Haste. I don't know if that would have made a difference, but at least then he could, like, run in right away.
Yeah. But, like, even there, if you can, you know, if you have a bunch of backups, you can pitch a couple, play Sephiroth, and play a hasty forward. It is really funny with Reno as well, because Reno's going to proc on every single gold forward.
Yeah.
So, like, you go, like, Reno, Sephiroth, and then, you know, it's a good thing Reno's so cheap, because then you can maybe get it out with Sephiroth. So, I like this guy. I think he's better than Edge at minimum, and that is...
Sure, yeah.
That's a bar I'm happy to see. Up next is our water hero in Graff, who is Grand General. From Mobius. When he enters the field, choose a forward you control, remove it from the game. And when he attacks, choose a forward opponent controls, it loses 4,000 power until the end of the turn. I mean, the good thing is, Mono Water does not, like, it doesn't need better LBs. Like, it's fine with Ketis and Leo and Lunafreya. Like, it doesn't need this guy to be good. You will probably still play him in Mono Water, I imagine. I think he's really cute in Water Lightning, which is actually doing really well right now. The Water Lightning Realm deck, you could start running Melusine, and then Graff is like a Limit Break deck version of Lunafreya, or not Lunafreya, Lady Lilith for you. You could just like Melusine, steal your forward, Graff, remove your forward from the game.
Yeah.
So that's cool. The second effect, I'd rather he have that text than not have it, but 4K is really not killing anything. It just kind of makes him hard to block. When he's a 3CP 9K, he's already hard to block. So yeah, I think he's like a nice one-of for like a Water Lightning Realm deck, and probably not much else.
Yeah, like you said, the Water LBs are so good. I can't imagine you're going to play this guy, but who knows? Maybe he'll show up here and there.
Our rare LB is Leonora, finally out of backup hell. Fun fact, I didn't know who Leonora was in the after years.
Oh, okay.
It had been so long since I played 4. I just thought Leonora was Palom Porum's mom.
That's funny.
That is not the case at all. Apparently she has like a massive crush on Palom from what I looked up. But
Indeed, she does.
So 6 CP, 2,000 power, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
When she enters the field, choose a Cat 4 forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. And then you can dull her to choose a Cat 4 forward. Other than Leonora, the next damage dealt to it becomes 0 instead. Again, this is a specific LB. There are only some decks that are going to want this. And she is competing with Noctis in some of these decks, because Noctis is, has that same line of attacks with no restrictions, right? That first line. However, there is a place I'm very excited to mess with her, and it is your old friend, your favorite card in the game. This is an LB Cat 4 forward that can get back copies of Rydia.
That's true.
That action ability doesn't matter very much for Rydia, but it is really cool for, like, if you're like a Earth Water Cecil deck again. I don't think this is the thing that like makes that like Rydia Rosa Cecil package into a competitive deck, but like protecting your Cecils is really good, and Cecil can kind of like in turn protect Leonora. Like, it's a really cool design there, and unlike the first time I read it, she doesn't sacrifice her. That second ability I thought was like the Aerith type of effect where she's going to sacrifice herself. No, she just gets to dull herself and say no. My Cecil's hanging around still. Sorry, like you still have to deal with that. Like, that's really cool. Again, she's gonna die to a stiff breeze, but like, I don't know. I kind of like this card in a lot of ways. I've been messing with a Rydia deck that I lent to a good friend of ours and Alex. I posted some pictures of the deck list on Twitter. But I got bodied by Rydia as recently as this set, and this is a card that the build of Rydia that I was looking for would have killed to have this card in the deck. Because I've been playing around with Siren in Rydia, and Siren needs you to have a low forward count. But if you have a low forward count, it's hard to get a bunch of back or get a bunch of counters on. So having an LB that can power up Rydia and recycle copies of Rydia is really, really cool. The downside is Leonora is such an important name for that tech that I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get away with it. But there will be a copy of this in that deck, guaranteed.
Yeah, she's good. I wonder if she could have been 4 since she has such a specific niche. Like she really fits one category type. And can she have 5,000 power? She's still going down to a Brynhilder. She's still trading with a Laswell. Like, why is it got to be 2K? I get in the game. She's there to help protect and support Palom, and she's the apprentice mage and all that, or the trainee. But like, come on. But other than that, yeah, I like her. I think she'll be really fun for those decks.
I think at 5 CP, like all the other techs the same, she would have been. Again, just
I think should have been fine at that.
The overlap with Noctis is just really difficult to ignore when it's the same cost as Noctis, and the power difference is so apparent. And again, power doesn't matter, but power does matter. Like, there's a big difference. Yeah, there's a big difference between 7K and 2K.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, God.
And our last card of the set is one of the more interesting ones. This is Golbez, who is a warlock from Cat 4. LB2, for 1 and X, search for a job archfiend of cost X, play it to the field. You can only use this once per turn. A lot of text is missing on this card that could very easily have been put here. That text does not say only on your turn, or like only in your main phase. So this is interesting. So definitely immediately, this is the best Dark LB, probably, by far. And this is a new design space for the game. We've not had a capital G game plan thing that you do from the LB deck as, like, your engine. Like, yes, there's, like, a finisher in Tidus that comes from LB deck, or, like, Cloud and cards that help get you to that end game, and, like, you're assuming you're going to play them. Or, like, Leo, who's kind of, like, this, like, mini engine to try to help smooth out draws. Like, Golbez is, like, the game plan for what you're doing on a deck that's playing him, probably. And that is both really interesting and really scary to come from LB. I don't know how good I actually think this card is. I know that a lot of people are really excited for it, but like, Archfiends historically are so bad in their text boxes that we could play them for free off of a warped other Golbez, and it didn't break the game.
Yeah.
And I don't think the new ones are that much better. With like, Cagnazzo's really good, but Cagnazzo actually was one of the better Archfiends in general before. I think the new Rubicante is pretty bad. I really don't think the new Barbarisha pairs well with this Golbez at all, because like, what are your colors in a dark deck? Like, are you actually are you playing a 4-color deck with the Archfiends? But why are you playing a 4-color deck and not playing, Refia or like other good stuff? Like, are you really taking up your 4-color deck and saying, no, I need to make room for like these 12 Archfiends in there? Like, I almost wonder if it fits better in like a 2-color deck.
Yeah.
I do love the new Skarn with Golbez, because it means that like discard a card protects the Golbez. It creates this really fun interplay between Golbez and the opponent, where the opponent is trying to, if you want to remove the Golbez, you have to kind of bait them into using him, or like get them to use it, and then on the stack you have to kill the Golbez with the Skarm. I think it's a really fun interplay, and again, they can only do that while the Skarm isn't on field already, so I think it's like just strong enough to be really, really good, but balanced enough where it's not a problem to like, you can get Golbez off the field.
Mm-hmm.
I am really worried that he's LB2, because if this is your game plan, and you can only do this twice, you're going to run out of Golbezes. Very easily, actually, I think. Like, one of the things that Refia does so well is you'll play Refia to the field, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a game. You can't do that with this guy. It's literally impossible to play him more than twice.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah,
go ahead. I'll let you...
I was just going to say, given how specific he is, like, again, he absolutely could have been Limit Break 1. Like, let me run 3 of them. He only works with the Archfiends. It's not like he just has generic search powers. I think this card's really fun and really exciting. I like that he kind of fixes a couple of the problems all these Archfiend Golbez decks have had in the past, or is that you had to see the right pieces and you had to line them up. But because he's in an LB deck, and normally I generally have not enjoyed the LB mechanic at all since it's been introduced, but I think this is one of the few times it's interesting, is that you need a card like this to always be available. You can't do the, well, I didn't see the Golbez till halfway through the game. It's like, nope, I can immediately go in on him, and then I don't have to, well, I hope I draw into the archfiends. He can just summon them to his side immediately. So I love the design of that. I like how specific it is. Like you said, the Scarm is really interesting because it can protect him. I wish the Rubicante did. However, outside of that, your fears are also very much justified that you're only going to get two. That's still expensive. That's still five up front for him. And then however much more you're going to keep investing into them, he doesn't have any inherent protection. So anything they can do to just bop him off the field, even a bounce, normally bounce, it's like, oh, I can play him again. Well, this bounce just gets rid of him permanently. So I would love to see a deck based on this because no Archfiend deck has ever been like, wow, what a cool premier competitive deck. And Golbez as a character, I counted this as his 10th appearance, and he just always gets unique cards. Like, there's just something about that character. They like giving him unique, fun stuff, and they did it again here. Please let this be competitive, man. I want to see some Archfiends on stream. That would be so fun.
I I don't know how much I want this to be a competitive card because if it is competitive, it's going to be very linear. Like you're going to have
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to get a backup down on turn one, and then turn two, I'm going to play Golbez, and then I'm going to pay four, and I'm going to get out Barbarisha, or I'm going to get like the Rubicante or something, and then on my opponent's turn, I'm going to hold the Cagnazzo over them, but I'm also going to hold the Skarm over them the whole time. Then it's going to come back to my turn. Like the linear game plan, I think is really a scary thing because it's not been the way LBs have worked until now has not done the Yu-Gi-Oh thing of your combo pieces are not in the LB deck, right? Like they are
Yeah.
mostly utility or finishers, which has been like a
Mhm.
relatively safe place to keep them. And this is kind of breaking that like really early contract they set aside with LBs. And I'm
True.
curious how that experiment goes. To me, I think the easiest home for him actually is Chaos Arc, where I think Cagnazzo is just like inherently a really playable card that you could just play in the deck anyway. Like you bounce it forward
Mhm.
with Cagnazzo, and then you arc a different one, and then this is an LB that can reduce the cost of arc to four, which is kind of nice. Like you, if you were gonna hard cast the arc anyway, this gives you like a free Golbez in the trade.
Yeah.
Um, the only other really kind of notable thing about Golbez that's new is this is the only LB that functions as what I would call an end board piece. And what I mean by that is that
Mhm.
like if you're ahead right now and you want to get further ahead, right? Or like I'm developed, I've got my setup. What do I do from here? If you're doing it from LB now, your best option is like you Luna Freya and try to get like a summon or something to like really stop your opponent, right?
Yeah.
This is the first LB that like you put on your end board with the intent of really like doing stuff to your. I guess Kuja would be the other one that I would count as like an end board piece. Like okay, this is what I'm going to do to like further my position in the game when I'm already ahead without necessarily having like I need to kill that forward or I need to draw a card, right? Like having this continued value.
Yeah.
So a really interesting design space, and also the art is really really nice. Probably some of the best in the whole set. Sarah Shimikobe
Yeah.
is. I really want to see how that pink is like that like moon is gonna pop in.
I know. Yeah. I hope it looks cool.
So yeah, definitely one of the most interesting cards in the game. Period. That is the full set though. All it was actually a smaller set than normal. I think it's like yeah. This is 118 cards.
Yeah. I wonder what that's about.
Well, I mean, if they're all like, I think the cards in it are pretty well designed though from top to bottom. Even a lot of the commons with like maybe the exception of the FF4 stuff got a little shafted. And it's kind of funny. There's some weird FF4 exclusions. Like there's no Rydia, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure Rydia has that 3D render from Complete Collection for the After Years as well. Like I don't know why she's not in the set.
Hmm.
Um, but but even some of the After Years commons, like the Maynard, the Ice Girl, like there's every they had five categories this set. It's 7,
Yeah.
10, 4, Type 0, and Mobius. And I think all of those categories are better for this set existing, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a really popular game, so I think it's a good choice of games to go with. So, but that is going to do it for us. Travis, do you have any other final words you want to say about the set?
Nope. I appreciate you having me on. It was fun to go through all the cards, and I am, as always, looking forward to seeing what I was 100% wrong about and what I was 100% right about. So,
I am looking forward to sending you all of the Shujin tops that happen.
By all means, please.
Sure you.
Bring it on. Show me the Yunas too. Show me all those Yuna aggros. It's like, oh my gosh, 10 forwards to dull.
All right, with that, I'll see y'all in the next one.
Take care, everybody. Bye.